Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time I'm playing in the Tier 8 Swiss-German premium medium tank, the Panzer 58 Mutz. This thing is unbelievably well-rounded. There's pretty much no weaknesses on this tank. Maybe apart from the side armor. The side armor is actually really bad. It's 30mm thick, and so that means that when this thing tries to side scrape, it generally will be punished. But 2.3 seconds aim time, top speed limit of 50 km an hour, with excellent ground resistances and a pretty okay power to weight ratio, giving the vehicle the mobility to be able to get up to that 50 kilometers an hour. It also has 212mm base penetration on its standard rounds, as well as an okay accuracy at 0.36, 2.3 seconds aim time with good gun dispersion values, 10 degrees of gun depression. The list goes on. The Mutz is just an all-round performer at Tier 8. Of course, it does, I guess, fall in some aspects compared to a lot of other premium tanks. When we look at the Panzer 88, for example, it fires, I think it's 8.7 rounds a minute. Absolutely crazy, whereas this vehicle only fires 8. Also, the accuracy, not quite as good as on some other vehicles, and I would probably rather be hull down in something like an FV4202. But, you know, for just all-purpose gameplay, you're never going to do bad in any situation. The Mutz is really awesome. Well, apart from when we dip a shell there into the ground, that slight slope there, that's a bit awkward. But now we're going to be able to punish the T-44's turret armor. Something that I only really figured out recently when I've been playing the T-44-100. I didn't appreciate just how bad the turret armor was on the T-44, and it's something that you can definitely punish when you start to get up to the 212mm of penetration that the Mutz has. This vehicle, or even this video, isn't going to be entirely focused on the Mutz. This vehicle is going to be focused on coming up with a plan in World of Tanks. Now, the first 30 seconds of the battle are super important for doing this. What you want to do is you want to figure out where are really the key locations on the map. And for a medium tank, the key location is going to be up on the hill. The hill fight on Himmelsdorf is absolutely ruthless, and generally it's the team that has the higher numbers, or shall we say the higher tiers, that are going to be able to conquer the hill. And so what you want to do is you want to try and figure out what tanks on the enemy team are likely to be going up onto the hill. And while you can't account for heavies going up onto the hill, you can definitely account for their mediums. I would have thought that the CDC, the T-44, maybe even the Scorpion, but he's in a platoon with the Jagdtiger 88, so it's most likely they're going to hold below. E-25 possibly on hill, A-44 possibly on hill. And then what you have to do is you have to look at your own team's chances of taking the hill as well. So you need to establish how many tanks on your team are likely to be going up on the hill as well. And of course that would be looking from the top to the bottom, maybe the 50-100, possibly the Scorpion, possibly the Challenger, the 1375 definitely, the Skoda T25 definitely. Then you're looking at maybe the T34-100, the E25 on my team as well, and even the AMX-12T propping up the bottom. And so try and establish whether you're going to have the numerical advantage in a situation before you are going to have to get there. Now, if you get into a matchup where all of the enemy's top tier tanks are mediums, and maybe you've got lots of top tier heavies, then taking such an aggressive position on the hill can be very foolish, and it can get you quickly eradicated. On Himmelsdorf, a far more sensible option if you think you're going to lose the hill is to try and police areas such as here, and punish them as they're coming down off the hill. Hopefully then they're caught by heavies and you can get flanking shots in on the side. Also, another opportunity will be to go where currently this KV-3 and the Scorpion is. If you use this location down here, you're able to get easy shots up at the hill at anyone who is foolish enough to go around the west of Castle von Himmelsdorf. So formulating a plan in World of Tanks is probably one of the most, I'd say it's one of the skills that really differentiates the players who maybe get 50% wins to then the players who go on to get 55% wins. And obviously that's something that only comes from experience. I'm not saying that you can instantly just go, whoa, and then be able to figure out where you should go on a map, how to react to how the enemy team's composition is and your team's composition is. But it's something that you should be actively considering, and also just trying to piece together and really recognize where you've made a good decision, and try and be objective and critical on yourself when you have made a bad decision. Now, talking about good decisions, bad decisions, I'm going to be having to defend the cap circle against, well, I'm not entirely sure what's going to be in there. It's either going to be the Scorpion or the E25. And considering that I've just spotted most of the cap circle here, that probably means that he is round the back of the church. So I'm not going to bother with the person who's in the cap circle right now. I just want to be focusing down this KV3. But also, I need to get effective fire on this guy before I might be flanked. We have indeed spotted the E25s there, and I have no idea why the E25 is not deciding to rush us right now. So I'm just going to continue to punish this KV3. Now it looks like this KV3 is actually firing some high explosive rounds, not quite managing to damage our tank there. Now I've taken out the KV3, I noticed there's an IS behind me. Now I don't want to get engaged by multiple opponents, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to track the E25, I'm going to reset the cap circle, and then I'm going to bomb it as quickly as I can to try and isolate and kill the IS. Remember, I've got enough hit points to take a shell from the IS, but he doesn't have enough hit points to take more than 2 shots from me. And because of my 8 rounds a minute rate of fire, I'm easily able to thread in the second one and take out the IS. And now I notice the E25 has left the cap circle, I want to keep running, and now I want to support the Scorpion. Now the Scorpion has enough hit points here to be able to take 2 shots, so I'm going to move with him. What you always want to be trying to think is to limit the amount of opponents that are going to be engaging you at the same time, and just to try and isolate. I've been saying that a lot recently, and it really is one of the most important things to do in World of Tanks. Obviously, with 15 players aside, the worst thing that you can do is to get yourself into a situation where you're outnumbered, especially when you don't have armor to be able to deal with those vehicles. By trying to, again, there's no other real word for it, isolate an opponent on the enemy team, you just make it a much easier fight for yourself, where then you can use your armor more effectively because you can keep your thickest parts of your armor towards your opponents, and also it takes the RNG out of the game. When you do get hit in the Mutz, I might get ammo racked, I might get set on fire, and if I get set on fire in this game, that's not very good considering I don't like to use fire extinguishers on my Mutz, and I like to feed my crew tasty chocolate to amplify their performance just a little bit. So right now we know that the E25 is on full health because when I was tracking him, I didn't actually manage to do damage to him. But we saved the cap circle, and that enabled us to go and take out the IS and change what was looking like a 3 versus 3 or even possibly more into now a 3 versus 1, and the odds are very much more in our favor. However, an E25, possibly one of the most scary tier 7 tanks, has a great rate of fire. Do you know the DPM of that E25, if he's got a good crew loadout, is very likely to be 50% more than mine. He's probably going to be able to put 5 shots in if I shoot him twice, and that is enough to be able to remove the remaining hit points in my vehicle. So what I want to do right now is try and stick with my team, but that's not really going to happen, so I'm going to communicate with them now. I'm going to say, go to T25, please don't go. If the E25 finds me by himself, it's very likely that he's going to be able to kill me because he's on full health. Or at least I thought he was on full health. He might still be on full health. We're going to find out in just a second. And this is the most stupid thing that we could be doing right now. By this Skoda going off by himself against a full health E25, he just lost his life. Now he's very lucky that the E25 decided to ram him there, because that E25 just lost 500 of his hit points, which is going to make it very much easier for me to be able to take him out. One thing I'd also like to highlight is my positioning here. What I was trying to do in this position was to align my tank up ready to either fall in on the left or fall in on the right. I wanted to have view range across 2 of, shall we say, the choke points on this map, and that would have allowed me to see where the E25 is and hopefully be able to put one into him and escape. Now remember, when you're engaging tanks, they've got a crazy rate of fire and crazy DPM, but lower alpha damage than you. Obviously, if you can manage to just put a shot in and control the engagement, then it's going to work out all the better for you. Now, I don't really want to leave the cap circle here. I guess I could have gone and chased down that E25, but what would have happened if, for example, maybe it set me on fire, he'd ammo racked me, which is very, very likely. This tank does take quite a lot of module damage, and then he would have probably been able to deal with the Scorpion, who was only a 2-shot, so I thought it was safer to cap in this situation. I really don't think that the Scorpion and the Skoda T25 on my team realized just how dangerous this endgame situation was. By basically splitting up here, we were damn lucky that that E25 decided to ram the Skoda T25 to lose 500 hit points, because if maybe he'd been able to take him out without losing any, then I would have certainly lost my duel to the vehicle, with the vastly higher DPM, unless of course I was able to double track him. And as well, the Scorpion, please don't be a player like this, where you're just going around at the end of the game trying to hunt down a tank that can kill you in 2 shots very, very quickly, and you don't really have a chance of one-shotting him. Frankly, play like this is how people win 1 versus X situations, and how there are so many collar panels medals in the game. So a great result here for the Mutz. This was 6,789 experience. Was that for a triple? Yes, it was. That's 1,460 base experience points, and we got a plethora of heroes medals: the Defender, the High Caliber, and the Invader. And while I think I fired a few unnecessary APCR rounds against the IS on the enemy team, we still made 73,000 credits after we resupply those, and also the chocolate, which we got during the discounted price. So all in all, a great result for the Mutz, but really in this replay I wanted to highlight a couple of things. Number 1, make a plan, especially on a map such as Himmelsdorf, where really you can either succeed or fail super hard depending on how well you read the enemy's team list and how well you can adapt to the situation. And secondly, how you can turn unfavorable odds in your favor by focusing on the right opponent and isolating tank after tank after tank. And hopefully how to not be a dummy and feed the enemy usually a replay that is worthy of being on a channel such as this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel out. And if this replay has sparked your interest in the Panzer 58 Mutz, then simply click through up here or use that more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen to see a plethora of other awesome replays. And let me know in the comments down below, what would you give, should we say, for tips and tricks to a new player as to how to quickly formulate a plan to be able to have a larger impact in the battle. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.